Welcome to the Urban Affairs Program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host, Pete Rhodes.
Thank you for joining us here on Urban Perspectives. I'm your host, Pete Rhodes. This edition is sponsored in part by UCare, healthcare that starts with you. On this program, we'll highlight the best in Minnesota's people, places, and events as we showcase Flight Time Studios past and present. We'll talk with one of the people who played an integral part in the studio's historic rise, and we'll spotlight 5 of the hottest voices in Minneapolis here on Urban Perspectives. Here's a fact. In the late 1970s, the Minneapolis sound inspired by Prince with a mixture of funk, rock, pop, and R&B has made a lasting mark on music worldwide. Today, the Minneapolis sound continues to grow with new artists to add to the sound for the next generation of music fans. Sound effects. Right here on this show, I have the pleasure of introducing 5 of those outstanding voices who combined experience and talent have been heard worldwide. I'm going to start out by asking my favorite friend, Pat, as well as the rest of the group, how did you get started with doing what you're doing with this fantastic group, and what does it feel like?
This effort was a brainchild of Thomasina Patricia, and she called on the rest of the singers who just by chance this season weren't doing any shows. And she said, let's try it, let's put it together. We did a few rehearsals and had some gigs, and things have been going great.
Well, Thomasina, you and I talked off camera, and you talked about how now it just started billowing and all these beautiful angelic voices are making things happen. So what are you doing now? How will you move forward?
Well, we started out for the holidays. We wanted to do a fun kind of flash mini musical where we show up at people's personal private parties or corporations and kind of do this 30-minute fun musical. And after that, we decided we should keep going with it because people really loved what we did. And so now we've been asked to sort of create musical experiences around corporate or private events, around the seasons or celebrations such as, you know, Black History Month and of course Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. So we're just kind of continuing to go and build programs around things like that.
Introduce the group.
Well, we've got the wonderful, amazing Patty Lacy.
Yes.
We've got the wonderful, amazing Nesret Shuank Theba. Of course, I'm Thomasina Petrus, Miss Tanya Hughes, Kendrick, and then Miss Darlene Miller.
Wow, you guys, we've got a fantastic lineup here for you, and we're so glad that you're here for this edition of Urban Perspectives. Now performing for us here, sound effects on Urban Perspectives.
Thank you.
Friends, good morning. It's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, or could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love's in need, love's in need of love today. Oh, don't delay. Send yours in right away. Hey, hate's gone round, round and round, breaking many hearts. We gotta stop it, please, before it's gone too far. And the force of evil plans make you its possession, and it will if we let it destroy everybody. We must right away.
Oh,
Hate's going round, round and round,
breaking so many hearts.
Stop it, please. Gone too far.
Don't you know that
Love's in need of love today.
don't delay.
Don't delay.
Send yours in
Right away.
Yeah.
Hate's gone round, round and round, breaking heart.
breaking heart.
Stop it, please. Gone too far.
Thanks, sound effect. We appreciate you being here. Coming up, we'll take you to a place that has and continues to contribute to the vibrancy of Minnesota's music scene, past and present. Join us for a tour of Flight Tyme Studios right here on Urban Perspectives. Flight Tyme Studios made music history with producers Jam and Lewis earning more than 100 gold, platinum, multi-platinum, and diamond albums for their work. Today, this historic location continues to create the next generation of hit makers. See how now on Urban Perspectives.
In the cities of lakes is a place that turned artists into superstars with a unique mix of music known as the Minneapolis Sound. Music's biggest stars came from the East and West for the sound they found at Flight Tyme Studios. Opened in 1989, the building, converted from a warehouse, became a powerhouse, featuring two of the best music writers and producers in modern music history, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They became synonymous as hit makers.
And you know, I travel all over this country, and I tell people, a lot of them don't want to believe me, but I tell them that, you know, nobody has a music scene like us. Now, I'm not bragging on that or nothing, but that's a fact. You know, the music scene that we have here, you can't find in most cities across the United States.
It was a destination here. I'm sure a lot of people from around the country, whether they come from Chicago or New York or LA, probably didn't want to come here, but they had to come here to get that sound. With music and, you know, all that we do, movies, all the entertainment, we're just creating memories. So that's what we were doing here. We were involved with this whole Flight Tyme experience at a time when it was just amazing, you know, the whole Janet Jackson experience. And met Michael Jackson out here in the lounge area. Just so many people just, you know, for me, just when I hear the music, it goes back to these moments that I was, you know, being in the studio, or, you know, around that time.
There's a lot of famous people have walked these halls here. You know, a lot of famous musicians have walked these halls. You know, we've done a lot of work here.
Inside Flight Tyme Studios, Jam and Lewis have created more Billboard #1s than any other music writing and production team in history. Flight Tyme Studios was built for music excellence. Inside the studio, it contained the best of equipment mixed with a relaxed atmosphere made for creating hits.
The thing that was different, how it's recorded, what it's recorded on, and who's mixing. You know, all those things have something to do with it. We had at the time, Steve Hodge was the chief engineer, so a lot of the stuff that was recorded here was mixed by him. That was another secret weapon. Also, Jimmy and Terry, just their energy and what they bring to the table and the standard, what they set. You know, I think all those things have something to do with it. And just, you know, just every building has an energy.
Jimmy and Terry did a great job of picking this location and designing this. And it felt, when we were working here, it felt like being in your own little, you know, community. And it made it a lot easier. I mean, we spent a lot of late night, 4, 5 in the morning leaving here, you know, nights doing this stuff. So when it's like that, you need to be in a spot where you feel comfortable. you know, and it was comfortable in here. You know, it was like a home. I learned a lot, you know, just being around the vibe. I mean, Terry and Jimmy were great, you know, about letting me do my thing, you know, and we just made it happen. I was around all these incredible musicians, and I learned from them. You know, I took, you know, what I needed for me to be better, I took from them, you know, so it worked out, you know.
He just loved that this was home, you know, being here all night, in the mornings, you know, trying to finish deadlines. And it was a beautiful, beautiful time, a great school, if you will. It was a great university.
Tyme Studios has left a lasting stamp on the Minneapolis sound and scene worldwide. Today, its impact helps create the music and technical creatives as the Minneapolis Media Institute. Program chair Paul Peterson is a Grammy-winning musician, a Minneapolis sound star who's played with Prince, the Tyme Band, and lead singer in the 80s Prince-inspired band, The Family. Listen as he and faculty members tell how the space continues to contribute to the vibrancy of the cities as the Minneapolis Media Institute.
Minneapolis Media Institute is now on the grounds of what was once Tyme Studios here in Edina, Minnesota. And what's so great about this, obviously, is the history and the people who have come through these doors and made hit records, whether it's Janet, Michael, Beyonce, Sting, Mariah, Boyz II Men. And now these studios are classrooms for these kids. They come in and they have as big of visions as Jam and Lewis or myself or Prince and anybody did. And it's our job and my job to make sure that we give them the training to go out there and make their dreams come true.
It's definitely apparent when you come in, you recognize that these are definitely top-notch studios. And I think when we talk about it with students, it's a huge privilege and an honor for them to be able to work in these facilities that have had a lot of really great records made and produced here. And I think that students come in with a little bit of awe on their face when they come in and realize that, wow, this was a commercial professional studio that's had some really amazing talent come through here.
What it means to work here, essentially, you know, we have folks from all sorts of backgrounds, and really it's a place where, you know, people can come hone in on the skills that they desire. You know, we want people here that have a passion for music technology, graphic design, game animation, and art, and all of the above. It's really just providing a place where folks can escape, you know, whatever is going on outside and focus on the longevity of investing in themselves.
The future is so bright for MMI. These people who walk through these doors, I think they feel the creativity in this building. There is a certain vibe that you cannot deny. It's unmistakable. You walk through these doors, and I don't know whether it's the history, I don't know whether it's the faculty, but the aura of creativity and inspiration here is infectious, and it's so beautiful to watch. These students just soar.
From this iconic facility came a music that stands the test of time and today continues to provide a place for future hits.
Thanks to Gary, Stokely, Paul, and the MMI team and Tyme Studios for having us. Stay tuned for an exclusive conversation now with an insider who was a part of the Tyme Studios' historic impact on the music scene. You'll meet Popeye, James Greer, next on Urban Perspectives. Welcome back to Urban Perspectives. My next guest is a songwriter, producer, manager who is credited for guiding and managing the hit-making R&B group Mint Condition at Tyme Studios. He's currently a CEO of So Nice Tunes and Go Getter Music Publishing. Please welcome to Urban Perspectives, James Popeye Greer. James, how you doing?
All right, Pete, thanks for having me.
You know, that is the first time I ever call you James.
Really? A lot of people don't know that's my name.
Yeah,
and it confused me too with
in fact, where do you get Popeye from?
Actually, it's not the Sailor Man.
Yes.
It's Popeye, like my eyes popped out of my head.
Yeah.
When I was a baby, they named me that.
Oh, really?
Little Popeye fella, you know.
Yeah. Coming up and doing great things.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in the music business and working with Mint Condition, one of the most fabulous groups that we have out there today?
Well, Pete, you know, music's been in me all my life. When I started in the business was 1974 with the band Tyme, which is now Tyme Studio.
Exactly.
But then it was a band, and I was the light engineer.
Okay.
And I was also considered the Pied Piper of soul.
Okay.
You know, in the 70s, they had a lot of bells and whistles in the music. And I had a lot of them bells and whistles. My job was to keep the party moving.
Keep the party moving.
Yeah, so that's what I did.
You got involved with Jammin' Lewis in '74. How did
74.
that encounter start when you first met the guys?
Well, you know, Terry and I grew up together.
Okay.
We actually lived next door to each other in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh.
So we family. And that's how, you know, I was in that band. And then when Prince got the band, there was Flight Time was the band, and he changed the name to the Tyme.
Yeah, yeah.
1984 is when they opened their first studio in South Minneapolis on Nicollet Avenue.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they asked me to make sure that it operated correctly and moved smoothly while they were in town, out of town. They were going back and forth in New York, LA, cutting deals, and so
you were
I was the
really
operation manager at that time.
Behind the scenes meeting and greeting all those big stars that came in. Who were some of the stars you met? And what was one of your most memorable projects, Popeye?
Oh, man, I'm glad you said projects with an S.
Yes.
Because there are so many. Many conditions, you know, dear to my heart.
Of course.
Janet Jackson, Control album. New Edition. Sherelle Alexander O'Neal.
Just a lot.
Human League.
Yeah.
Patti LaBelle, Just the Facts. Did it on the soundtrack, Just the Facts.
Yeah.
To name a few.
Yeah. How was it working on the soundtrack for the movie?
It was great, man. You know, I learned from one of the greatest engineers in the world, Steve Hodge.
Yes.
That's why I learned my trade. I'm a recording engineer by trade.
Okay, okay. Yeah, Steve Hodge is behind practically all the hits that are coming out of
all of
out
his
of the Flight
part of
Time
that
studio.
sound.
Yeah,
you know.
And it's a special sound that Minneapolis has. Now, what would you say is the lasting impact overall, Popeye, of the studio and the work that's done here for this region, for this state?
Okay. I'm going to answer that other question about that memorable moment.
Oh, yes.
Or a project, but there's a memorable moment. Being part of the video for Control, with Janet Jackson was very memorable. I mean, it's a dream come true.
That was cool.
Right? You know, my fear is never waking up from that dream. Because, you know, I was able to meet all those stars and do all that project. And
great video, too.
Great. But Pete, let me tell you, there's a lot of stars behind the big stars. For instance, locally, part of the Minneapolis Sound, David Island.
Yes.
Cynthia Johnson.
Funky Town.
Jelly Bean Johnson.
The lead singer for Funky Town.
Lead singer for Funky Town, but she was also the lead singer for the band Flight Time. Yeah. And you know, the Pied Piper soul thing was keeping the party moving. Well, you know, Prince was like, didn't want to play after us. You know, we played for sororities and fraternities, and I don't know if you know the Butler Square.
Yeah,
you know, it's a party in the square, and they had the escalators. And
remember that.
I had those whistles and bells, and I had the party going up the escalator, down the escalator, around Butler Square, and Prince would play after us, and he was like, that Popeye, I can't stand him. Everybody's tired now.
Everybody's tired.
Yeah. You know, so.
Well, it's great, man. I mean, we remember when we first met Janet, was at Butler Square. They brought her over when she first came into town. So when they were bringing individuals in this cold tundra of Minnesota, how were the artists' reactions at that time?
It was cold outside, but it was hot up in the studio. You know, the music was cooking. They loved being in the studio. They didn't care much for the weather.
Yeah, the atmosphere in the studio was fantastic.
It was great.
Yeah. Well, you guys have done a fantastic job. What's next for you in terms of your publishing company? Are you continuing to do what you do? Well,
you know, I have two lives. One is in the music and the other is education.
That's right.
And I've been in education since 1973. Okay, and to tell you, I went back to school, got my master's in organizational management.
Correct.
After I had dealt with my condition, if I knew then what I know now, they would have 2 Grammys for their first 2 albums. Because, you know, artists is about marketing them. And now I know about marketing
It's a different ball game.
So I'm working with local artists. I'm working with them on getting their demo packages together and shopping. You know, indie today is huge.
Right.
So I have a couple of packages out. I have a female rapper called Mo Money, and I'll leave you a CD for her.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I worked on a project called ABC Swag Style. In other words, it's teaching ABC through music with the hip hop flavor.
That's great, man.
Yeah, so.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on with us to talk a little bit about the Insiders situation there at the Flight Tyme Studios. A major impact to the music scene that continues today. You can't turn radio on without hearing some Flight Tyme music. James,
thank you for having me, man.
Thank you so much.
You know what?
Man.
I want to thank you and Kim too, man, for being a part of making us successful, being there for us. You was always about, you know, Minneapolis. You know, you had the awards show all the time. You know, we were always there, got a chance to show our talent. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Happy New Year to you and Kim.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
James Popeye Greer, we love you too, man. Thank you for watching this special edition of Urban Perspectives, sponsored in part by UCare, healthcare that starts with you. Visit our website at urbanperspectives.tv for information on our guests and for links to previous broadcasts, and like us and post your comments on our Facebook page. And remember, there are so many amazing people and positive stories in our cities. Watch for them right here on Urban Perspectives. Now enjoy the photos of the week featuring the second annual Minnesota Fashion Awards with photos by lovely Bianca Rhodes right here on Urban Perspectives. I'm your host. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.